Well, we're talking about sneezes, so there's a lot of theories. I went down this wormhole, all these theories on where the statement, God bless you, where it originated. Because when we sneeze, we say, that was pretty good. When we sneeze, we say, oh, that's good. All right. And so there's a lot of theories where that started. It's all over the map. I could have spent 30 minutes telling you all of them. But one of them, I thought it was interesting that during the Middle Ages, some believe that the God bless you after a sneeze started during the Middle Ages in Europe during the bubonic plague. And it was a terrible pandemic. I know you've heard about it. And in those days, it was usually a fatal disease. So if you had the bubonic plague, you were probably going to die. And so in those days, the phrase, God bless you, so if you had it, or if somebody sneezed during that time, somebody would offer you a God bless you because it was kind of like saying goodbye. You're going to die. I mean, isn't that comforting, right? But some say that it started there. Or the Germans say Gesundheit. Anybody know what that word means? It means health. It means have health upon you, all right? So remember in this series, here's what I want you to grab. Remember in our series, the whole idea is that, again, we're sneezing something out. A sneeze is the body's way of rejecting or getting rid of an infection or an invader that would try to cause unhealth, disease to our body. That could actually lead to death. And so the whole idea is if the body sneezes out an invader, how much more should we be on guard as a church, the invaders that would cause us to have sickness, irritation, or at worst case scenario, spiritual death. Would you agree with me on that, right? And so today I want to talk a little bit on this whole idea of getting rid of the invaders. And how many know stress can weaken the body? When we're stressed, anybody ever experienced stress? Let me see your hand. If you're alive, you've experienced stress, all right? Some of you are stressed right now, like I'm in this church service, I don't know what to expect, all right? But stress can kind of lower our immune system. Stress can kind of lower our defenses, and that's when sickness sometimes comes in. So, for your listening pleasure today I want to sneeze out stress and replace it, if you would, with strength. How many think this one could relate to somebody you know? Not you, of course, but somebody you know, right? So let's go to our foundational verse found in 2 Kings. By now, I'm sure you have it memorized. It says this: when Elisha reached the house, there was the boy lying dead on his couch. The whole idea is that we as a church, as much as God has blessed us in our 6 years of existence, that we don't get comfortable and lie spiritually dead just waiting to go to heaven, all right? And so there he was dead on the couch. Elisha went in and he shut the door on the two of them, his parents, and he prayed to the Lord. Then he got on the bed and he lay on the boy, mouth to mouth, eye to eye, and hand to hand. I always feel like I need to give a disclaimer to that weird verse in case you haven't been here in the series, but it's just a picture of alignment. And we as a church need to make sure we're aligned with God's vision, God's words, and God's work, right? Okay? And so, as he stretched himself out on him, the boy's body grew warm. It goes on, it says just a little bit more. It says, Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room, and then got on the bed and stretched out on him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times, and then he opened his eyes. So here's the question for you to consider as we dive into this today. The question for you to consider is it possible that stress is keeping us from God's best? Is it possible that we as Americans, we wear the badge of busyness, and busyness produces stress, and we lean on busyness like, look how important we are, but it's really the fruit of stress that keeps us from the real plans and purposes that God has for our life? There's too much going on. There's too much chaos. We're one of the only countries that never takes a break. We wear it proud that we're busy and I don't have time for sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Doesn't that sound like an American, right? Huh? And so there's just too much chaos, and there's too much outside pressures, and stresses begin to come. All the external problems begin to weigh up, and they've become bigger than the internal self that I am. Come on, did you hear that? The external problems become bigger than the internal person that I am. And one of the things I've come to learn when it comes to stress and crisis and problems, I've come to learn that we are either coming out of a crisis, we're in the middle of a crisis, or we're heading into a crisis. How many know that's true? And some of you are like, well, what a bummer, Ken. Can't you be more positive? Yes, I can. I'm positive that there will be crisis in life. It's just true, right? I'm positive of that. But here's the reality. Because that's true, because life happens that way, because there's crisis, because there's problems. I mean, you can straighten everybody out in your life for one day, maybe, but how many know you got to start all over tomorrow? And that gets stressful, trying to get everybody to act the way you want them to act. How many know that gets stressful, right, everyone? And if we allow the stress to keep us down, then we will always be dead on the couch. And I don't mean physically dead, but how many know there's a lot of people breathing air that you've already emotionally and spiritually died? You've already clocked out. And your whole life goal is to go, clock in, make a living, clock out, and that's the end of it, and that's all there is to life. But I'm here to tell you there is more to life than just that. Let me say this again. I want you to take a picture of it or write it down. If you're taking notes, write this down. If you're not taking notes, write this down, all right? Pressure, here's what stress is. Stress comes when the pressure on the outside is greater, watch this, than the capacity on the inside. So we could spend a lot of time trying to reduce the stress, but I wonder if there should be any attention given to increasing capacity. So I got some good news and bad news for you. You guys ready for it? If you're like me, I like the bad news first. How many of you like the bad news first? Let's do the bad news. The bad news is pressure. That pressure is not going to change. Crises are not going to stop coming. Problems are not going to stop coming. Aren't you bummed? Aren't you glad you came to church today? Problems are coming. Challenges are coming. Crisis is coming. Stress is going to be there. That's the bad news. And it's just the world that we live in, ladies and gentlemen. But the good news is that capacity can change. Well, the problems externally, we can't control them, but we can control the capacity in our life. So I want to give you 3 different lists today. I know that's a no-no because, 3 points, you're not even going to remember 3 points, much less 3 lists. But I'm going to give them to you anyway because they'll be libraried on our webpage and you can go back and look at it. So I want to give you 3 different lists. And the first list is I want to talk to you about what the process of stress looks like. Now, stress just sounds like something, that we just get used to and go through, but I want you to see the severity of stress and how it keeps us from God's best in our life. So let's kind of go through the process. If you were here Wednesday night when they did Find Freedom, you'll see some parallel here. And by the way, we usually don't record Wednesday nights, but their teaching is up just until the next Wednesday night. If you weren't able to be here, it's online for you. So let's talk about the process of stress. The process of stress, first of all, the first thing that happens when we go through a crisis is that there is shock. It's the whole idea of, I cannot believe this just happened. Anybody ever been there? Come on. Never in a million years would I've ever expected this thing to happen. Come on, I need to know who I'm talking to today because you guys act like you've never been through anything. All right, let me talk to the people that have, you just been through, like, I can't believe he did what? He said what about me? They did this thing. And so it's just shock. I can't believe that happened. So here's what I'm going to do. You'll feel more comfortable if I just use a personal story. So let me use a personal story of a time I went through probably one of the greatest crises of my life, and it stressed me so much. There was so much stress cracks in my life, I'm surprised that I'm still in one piece. And I can't share all the details. And it might be hard to connect some of the emotional dots through this, but I think I can share enough highlights that you'll get the gist of it. So My wife and family and I, we were doing life great in Michigan. Life was wonderful. We had just built our dream home. We had just finished completing building a 15-seat auditorium on a church campus with 11 buildings. Life was good. We were just happy as could be. But I recognized I had some wounds in me, some father wounds, because I grew up not knowing my dad. Long story short, we decided to move here to this area to pastor a church that was just about ready to close. We closed it for a week, reopened it under a new name, and I did that mostly. I believe that God was calling us, but I also believe that God was giving me the opportunity to restore a relationship with my dad. And I'd never known my dad. My dad lived here and was from here and never left here, much less to build some bridges to family that I had not met or didn't know. And so life was going good. So in 2007, we showed up here, and we showed up to Mount Vernon, and we took this little church, and this little church started growing. We left our church behind, and some things began to happen. How many remember 2008? Anybody remember anything significant about 2008? Yeah, there was a crisis going. You want to talk about stress? All of America was in a stress. So in 2007, life was good. Things were going along really good. 2008 hit. Things were going good. The little church here in town was growing. We were having a good time. It was a little challenging because my teenage kids were trying to adjust into a small church. The church was smaller than the youth group they came out of. Jake was a senior. Janessa was just starting high school. How many know that can be challenging? What a great dad I felt like. And so things were going along good. The pastor that had taken over for me in the Detroit area, well, we're just going to say he had some complications. He made some bad statements from the pulpit. How many know you make bad statements from the pulpit when 400 people leave your church in one Sunday? And within the year 2008, they had lost over 1,000 people out of that congregation. And in 2008, the economy tanked, and they could no longer, the budget on the operating church 24 hours a day was $200,000 a month. I mean, no, that's a big amount of money, but we were ministering to a lot of people. They could no longer do that. The economy hit. The congregation had dwindled. In the meantime, I had found out my very first pastor that I worked for, we had hired to be the CFO at the church, only to find out a little bit time later that he didn't embezzle money, but he mismanaged the funds of the church, including mismanaging my retirement fund, so I didn't have as much in my retirement as I thought I did. And life is getting stressful. Life is getting stressful because now I have family members that won't talk to me anymore because I've moved here to do life with the opposite family members. None of you can relate, can you? You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. How many know what I'm talking about, right? And so I had family members that disowned me. Now I had people from my old church emailing me mad about the financial situation that other people had made. And now I'm getting all these nasty emails from people I had done life with for 13 years that told me they loved me. And I realized maybe they didn't love me. On top of that, when the church got in trouble, when I first took the church, it was in bankruptcy. So we had a personal credit card that paid for all the church stuff because the church didn't have any credit. Well, after 13 years, that same credit card just kept getting renewed in the front office, and they would use that in the front office. The bill would come to the church. They would pay that. Well, when they got in financial trouble, they pulled out Ken Hubbard's old credit card. And the credit card company didn't know to find me because they had made the minimum payments for about a year until they couldn't make it anymore. And the credit card company found me and said, "Mr. Hubbard, you owe us $56,000. That the people I had done life with, that I had married and dedicated children, that they had literally stole from me. And now I'm stuck with a $56,000 bill." To make a long, terrible story really, really short, then things started not going well here. And I won't go into that because we live in this town. There's no need to do that. And things started not going well here. And trust between me and the leadership of that church was broken, and I didn't know how it could be restored. And so one Sunday, I just decided it's time for me to get out of the game. It's time for me to take a break because I was in shock. You see, just a year, 18 months prior, here I am pastoring my dream church, living in my dream home. We just got flown to the national office of our denomination and awarded as one of America's most innovative pastors. Now my denomination won't stand with me. Now I feel like I'm let down. Now the people I loved were emailing me nasty stuff. How many know Christians can be kind of nasty? Mm-hmm. And I started thinking this. They don't really love me. They only said they love me because of what I do. And I started feeling like the loneliest person in the world. So one day I got up and I resigned my church because I knew that I wasn't healthy. And how many know you have to have a healthy pastor to have a healthy church? And so I knew that I was no good to anybody, even though they disagreed. And now I started getting emails from that congregation telling me what a devil I was there. So I got devil from this church and devil from this church and friends that I thought loved me that weren't really there. And then I got blackballed from the denomination because I left the denomination. Now all the churches I used to go to and preach didn't want me anymore because as far as they were concerned, I had backslidden. And I started isolating. Has anybody else ever done that? I started isolating a little bit. Now, let me time out right there. I'm going to say this not just because I did it, but all isolation is not bad. Sometimes we just need a minute to process. Come on, moms, where are you at? When you throw the apron over your head and say, give me a minute, can I not even use the bathroom? Come on, moms. See, I know your pain. I'm with you, girl, all right? Yeah, so not all isolation is bad, but it's when we stay in that isolation and wallow in the isolation and begin to listen to the things, everybody hates me, nobody loves me. Come on, don't act like you've never done that. At least you know somebody that's done that because I'm telling you I have. I needed a minute to process, but if you stay there and you don't have friends and you don't have a community and you don't have a crew to process it, that isolation will become unhealthy. That's why Ecclesiastes, Jake and Carmen used this verse on Wednesday night. It says this, two can accomplish more than twice as much as one, for the results can be much better. If one falls, the other pulls him up. But see, I had a whole lot of acquaintances, but I had very, very few real friends. So the step in stress, the first one is that of shock. Then we get to the stage of sorrow. And sorrow is, at least for me, it was the first time I recognized I wasn't full of joy. I wasn't full of life. I just wanted to pull the curtains. I didn't want to see nobody. I didn't want to go out in public because I didn't want anybody to corner me. I remember getting cornered at Best Buy by somebody and they just chewed me out. And I just thought, I am not going out in public. And for the first time in my life, I was depressed. I was sad, mad, and looking bad. How many of you know what I'm talking about, right? And by the way, it starts with shock, it goes to sorrow, but I want you to know that shock and sorrow are human emotions. And it's okay, you should be shocked about some things. And you should be sorrowful about some things. Come on, where are you at today? After all, Jesus wept, everybody. He was sorrowful, and God gave us the emotion of grief, and grief is good, but grief is only good for a season because if we decide to live there, it becomes bitterness. Then it gets us to the next phase, and the next phase is the struggle. And for me, this is what it looked like. I went from being really sad because I couldn't share with anybody what was going on. I went from really sad, losing people I thought were friends, and then I moved. How many know where I moved from sad to? Yeah, come on, there's my peoples. I moved from sad to mad. I mean, I was like, oh, no, you didn't. I was ready to go all, Karate Kid on everybody, and I went from sad to mad. I was so mad that I was ready to fight all the time. I was just on guard anytime. If somebody walked too close to me at Best Buy, I was having flashbacks and ready to punch somebody out. How many know punching somebody out in a store on Saturday is not good for a church service on Sunday? How many would imagine, right? And so I'm mad. I'm mad when people are giving me compliments. They're like, hey, Pastor, I love you so much. That was a great message today. And in my mind, I'm like, you big fat liar. You'll turn on me the people would say, Pastor, I love you so much. I'd take a bullet for you. And then I turn around and see them holding the gun. How many know what I'm saying, right? I'm like, no way, man. And that's when I knew I needed to resign. And I resigned because I was so mad. I was mad at the church. I was mad at everyone. I was even mad at God. And I was questioning God. Have you ever questioned God? Man, when you start questioning God, you know that God has you in a place where He wants to take you real deep. And by the way, if He's taking you real deep, don't lose heart. Because anything that He's going to build real tall, He has to first go real deep. Come on, everybody. Come on, are you hearing that today? And so even Jesus said, my God, why? And so I wanted to leave ministry. I took a little time out, and I wanted to leave ministry, and here's why. Because I couldn't personally struggle that deep while I was trying to be publicly that strong. Maybe that's just for pastors to understand. I couldn't get up here and be everybody's source and everybody's strength and everybody's encourager and everybody's cheerleader when I was mad at the world. I couldn't encourage anybody while I was discouraged, and that's called hypocrisy. I couldn't do it. I couldn't fake it. I couldn't pretend. How many understand what I'm talking about, right? And back then I didn't have a support system back then. I didn't have, like I have today, a board of directors. I don't really call them that, but that's what they are. They're board of directors over my life. And you don't have to have a position to have a board of directors over your life. It's just a group of friends that know you. They see the worst in you and still believe the best in you. They can step on your toes without messing up your shine. How many know what I'm saying? They believe in you no matter what you're going through. And back then I didn't have that. Oh, I had people with titles around me. But how many know titles don't mean anything? Towels mean something when you're there to serve one another. And since then, I have learned that the songs that we sing are not just songs that we sing for entertainment, but the worship will get us through those shock times and those sorrow times and those struggle times. Come on, somebody. I've learned, and because I've been there and I understand the shock and the sorrow and the struggle, whenever I start feeling those emotions again, I just stop everything. I get away by myself and start saying things like, all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I'm going to sing of the goodness of God. And what happens is I lift up God. As I lift Him up, He becomes bigger than the situations. Come on, are you hearing me? That's your secret sauce, everybody. Number 4. I got to get to number 4. Number 4 is where we begin to surrender. This is when we finally start to surrender. And by the way, this is what the Christian life is really about. And so sometimes maybe God will allow you to go through shock and allow you to go through sorrow and allow you to struggle, because where He really wants you to get is say, okay, God, I'm out of control. This is all you. That's really where He wants to get us. And we can either get that through revelation or we can get it through situation. But God loves you so much that if you don't get it through revelation, if you don't get it here today in a preaching word, and you don't grab a hold of this principle, then God loves you so much He'll allow you to be in a situation that you gain this truth. I'd rather get it in a revelation than a situation. That means you ought to be paying attention this morning, everybody. But if I hadn't have surrendered, if I hadn't really surrendered my will really to God. See, I was a Christian, but it was really all about what I was doing. And it's easy to camouflage that when you're a Christian, because you can always do good things, but underneath it you're doing it with ulterior motives. And not even maybe even recognize it. And if I hadn't have surrendered to not my will but yours be done, then I would have left ministry, and I would have been bitter, and I would have been mad at the church, and I would have been an isolated hermit. I might have even been mad at God. And if I would have done that and we play that out, then Radius would have never been born. What is not being born in your life because you haven't surrendered? dying to self. It's only when I surrender that I begin to have genuine peace. Because what I recognized as I surrendered is you can't kill a dead man. You can't email bad things to a guy that's already dead. So bring it on. You know what I mean? It's like life just takes on this whole nother thing. And watch this. If you'll connect this to last week's message where I talked about the 7 or the 6 different phases that we walk through in our spiritual journey, this is what finally got me to phase 4, which a lot of Christians never do. And a lot of Christians never dive into the inner healing. Why do I do what I do? This is what got me that when I finally surrendered, which brought me to number 5. The number 5 in a crisis is the sanctification of the crisis. It's then that we begin to realize that God can make something good out of it. That I don't have to be ashamed of what I'm going through or what I've been through, that I ought to not hide it all the time and close the door to the skeletons in my closet. Maybe I ought to let the skeletons get out and dance. There's a good sight for you, isn't it? Yeah, I like that. I didn't like what I was going through, and God didn't create what I was going through, but God took what the devil meant to take me out, and God is faithful to make the bad thing into a good thing. Can I get a witness in this house today, right? Here's what Romans says. Romans tells it like this. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't naturally do that. But it's all these years later that I'm really grateful what I went through in those years. If you would have talked to me in those years, I wasn't grateful at all. But we can glory in our sufferings. How come? Because we know that suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance character, and character produces hope. What I didn't realize then is I had some character faults. So I had some character flaws in my life. And God, in order to take me to the next level, had to work on the inner character of Ken Hubbard. Can anybody relate? Which brings me to the next phase, and the next phase is number 6, is service. It's then that we recognize that God can use what I went through to help others and to be a service to help others go through that. You know what I did for the next couple years after that? I went to pour into young pastors that were going across America to plant churches, because if I'd been through this, I could share what I've been through and help them build roadblocks that they might not have to go through that, and they could be healthy. Come on, everybody. You can turn that in. That's when you truly use your misery to be your ministry. 2 Corinthians chapter number 1 says it this way. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us, watch this, in all our troubles, not some troubles, all our troubles. How come? So that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Man, I love the Bible. Isn't that good, right? And then that brings me to phase number 7. And phase number 7 in this whole thing is when it all turns to strength. See, I can stand here today and talk very open about it because what was my weakest days has become my strongest platform. Come on, it turns into strength. And so maybe I shouldn't try and get rid of stress and all my problems. Maybe there's a purpose for the problem. Maybe there's a purpose for the pain. Hello, somebody. Maybe I should quit trying to avoid stress and problems all the time, but that through God's Holy Spirit to increase the inside me to handle. Because if nobody can handle anything, then how are we going to accomplish anything? Now, I know there's a lot of arguments going on in your minds right now. Some stress is self-imposed. How many know that's true? But some stress just comes. Some stress just comes because you have a dream. You have a dream to have a godly home. How many know that'll create stress in our world? You have a dream to open a business. You have a dream to start a church. You have a dream. How many know that will cause stress all by itself, right, everybody? And so after all I went through back then, I decided I wanted a stress-free life. Doesn't that sound nice? Stress-free life? I could set you up right now and say, anybody want a stress-free life? And turn into a motivational preacher. Here's your 3 steps. But it'd be a lie. Because I decided I didn't want any more stress, and I started getting less and less and less and less stress. But in 2016, I realized I wasn't accomplishing anything with the life that God gave me either. I was stress-free, but I was sitting on the couch. I was stress-free, but I was hanging out in coffee shops, drinking coffee all the time. I was stress-free, but I wasn't moving forward. I was stress-free, but I had died to the plans and purposes of God. Let me say it this way. Come on, for my action people. I was stress-free, but I was getting bored out of my mind. And now I was stressed because I was bored. How many can relate? Right? And my boredom, then, watch this, then my boredom became depressing. And I looked at my life and said, I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm not doing what God's called me to do. And now I'm going through the cycle all over again. Because that's not what God created me to do. God didn't create me to meander through this life without any bloody noses and scars. He didn't make me to meander through this life without any blood, sweat, and tears. Come on, Paul. Come on, Peter. Come on, John. Come on, are you hearing what I'm saying? Yeah, we got to roll up our sleeves and get in the fight. And when you get in the fight, you're going to get beat up a little. You're going to take some and give some. You're going to get dirty. You're going to get sweaty. You're going to have some stories. Is anybody hearing what I'm saying today? Right, everybody? And God didn't create it to sit on the sidelines. But I did learn that some stress is self-imposed. So here's my second list. I'll give you this one faster. Is that I reduced some of the stress that I could control. Here's my list. Here's just 5 of the things I did in my life. You can take a picture of this. I'll just give them to you real quick. This is just what I did. This just relates to the problems I was dealing with in the inner me, all right? So here's what I did to reduce some of the stress in my life. Number 1 is I learned how to say no. Yeah, that's a big one. Come on, girl. Ain't that true? Because remember the badge we wear for being busy? Woohoo! Somebody asked me just a couple weeks ago, man, you must be super busy. And the truth of the matter is, I'm not super busy. I have a lot of what I feel weight and responsibility, but I'm not like running around with my head cut off, because if I did that, I'd be no good to you on Sunday. Come on. So I had to say no. I had to learn to say no to a whole lot of things. Anything that didn't line me up with the target and the calling and the plan and the purpose, I didn't spend my money on. I didn't spend my energy on. I didn't spend time worrying about, because that's not what God called me to do. I had to say no. Come on, somebody. And by the way, that made people mad too. So here's a lesson. I got the spiritual gift of making people mad. Number 2 is I got laser focused. I decided if I'm going to say no to some things, I got to know what I'm supposed to say yes to. I got to find out why God made me and how He made me and how He created me and what gifts. And then that translated over into the church. In my church in Michigan, we had 136 ministries. That is stupid, everybody. I thought we could do everything for everybody, but forgetting that there's a lot of other great, healthy churches around here. And so I reduced 136 to 4 things. There they are. I keep them on the wall, not for you. I keep them on the wall for me. I got laser focused. Those are the 4 things we do, and these are the 4 things we want for your life. We want you to know God. We want you to find freedom. We want you to discover purpose, and we want you to have the joy of making a difference, which many of you will have today. Are you hearing that? And then number 3 for me, I had to get a better system. I had to quit living life random. I had to quit waiting for the phone to ring to see what crisis would pop up, and I had to start making the phone ring and decide what things I was going to put. So I had to get a better system. That equated over into the church too. It's one of the reasons today we do our finances 10, 10, 35, 45. I teach about that at Next Steps. 10% goes to tithe to other ministries, 10% goes to savings, 35% pays the staff's salary, and 45% it helps facilitate all that we do. You just got to get better systems. Number 4, the 4th thing I did was I made new friends and included them in all the decisions I make. You don't have to be a leader of an organization to have a group of friends that are included in the decisions you're going to make. Because when you say, hey, should I date this knuckle dragger or not? One of your girlfriends is going to say, you need to run as far as you can because love is blind, girl, and you're double blind. Come on, how many wish you would have had somebody? You know you wish you would have had somebody telling you. You know you do. Come on, don't point at them, just amen me, all right? Okay, and so I had to make some new friends because all those that I thought were friends were only friends based on what I did. But now I was making friends that were bigger than me, higher than me, further along than me. Some of my friends you've met, Craig Wendell. Some of my friends you've met, Corey Hardesty. Some of my friends you've met, Luke Barnett, Aaron James. Some of those friends. And whenever I need to make a decision, whether it's money, policy, whatever, I'll call them up. I'll talk to them. I'll get them on a group call. Say, hey, what do you think? We're going to buy this building, and here's what the finances of that. Well, what do you guys think? Come on. How many know we all need some friends? Number 5, and here's the most important, is that allowed me to begin to dream again. Some of you have lost your dream because stress is bigger than the dream. And some of us are stressing about things that we have no business stressing about because God hasn't called you to do that. I don't stress about not having a band up here on Sunday. Some of you freak out. Oh, that's a church without a band. God forbid. How could that ever be? I don't know. Ask Paul. I don't stress about it. I get in here, lift my hands, sing unto God. I don't stress about it because I can't sing. It's not my problem. How many understand what I'm talking about? Quit stressing about things that aren't your problem, is what I'm saying, right? And so if stress is because the pressure on the outside is bigger than what's on the inside, then maybe before I close this series on sneezing out stress, I should consider what I need to do to strengthen the inside. So I've talked to you about what the process of stress looks like. I've also talked to you about the things that you can control that can reduce some stress. But I've also told you, which you already know, is that some stress we can't avoid. And so sometimes it's not just about getting rid of stress, it's about increasing capacity. So let me give you my third list today, and I'll be out of your way. The third list is 5 ways to strengthen what's on the inside of you. Now, these are going to be easy to preach and hard to do, like all my messages. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So here they are. Number 1 is our capacity increases when we rest and recover. Mm-hmm. When our capacity increases. I mean, even God, He created and step back and go, that's good. I just imagine, I know, leave me alone. Let me just imagine it the way I want. I just imagine God stepping back after He made the lemon tree, now drinking a lemonade going, that's awesome. Yeah, okay. Just kind of resting, enjoy, man, the fruit of, look at what we just created. Wow. That's like, it's almost like we're embarrassed to say that as Americans. What'd you do today? I rested. Oh, or when somebody says, hey, what are you up to today? All of us are ashamed to say, well, this is my time to rest. Because we feel obligated to fill in that time. When people, what are you doing today? Well, it's none of your business what I'm doing today. This might be my rest day. Your rest day? Yeah, but you have no idea what I was just doing. Come on, everybody. We all need a Sabbath. One of the greatest things I've done in my life is on Saturdays as a Sabbath. And I'm rested up so much, I start getting agitated. I'm like, because I'm a do-it person. Any do-it people in here? I'm like, oh, I can't wait. And Sunday's coming. And that's why I come out here. Rah! Huh? How many of you would rather that than, oh, here we go again. Right? Come on, Eeyore. Come on, have some rest. Get some rhythm in your life. When I was telling you a couple weeks ago, somebody said, man, you must be really busy, all that you got going. No, I'm not really busy. I've learned to have a good rhythm in life. Of course there's times I'm busy. All of us are. But there's times I retreat. And there's busy, and there's retreat, and there's a rhythm, and there's rest and recover. One of the verses that this pastor from South Africa gave me at a California pizza kitchen before I drove up here to start this church. He said, Ken, I don't know you, but I feel impressed God's given me this verse to give to you. And here's what it said, Hebrews chapter number 4. It says, let us therefore make every effort to enter rest. The translation he gave me on his iPhone, I don't remember what translation, you could look it up, but it says, work to enjoy rest. In other words, it's not easy. I had to work. I had to, because problem, how many know, come on, any people have some major responsibilities in life? There's always problems. You own a company, there's always problems. You pastor a church, there's always a problem. Look at all of you. I mean, there's always a problem. Yeah, and you're saying, yeah, but look at you. I know. You must have problems because you come to see a problem spin out of control every Sunday, right? Okay. But I got to labor to be at rest because there's always a crisis. And somewhere in that I got to say, God, that's you. I'm honoring you with a Sabbath, so you got to take care of that. There's some issues going on in the church. I know God, but I can't be at everything. I can't be at, thank you, Greg, I can't be at every funeral, and I can't be at every outreach, and I can't be at, just like you can't, because there has to be a rhythm in life. Come on, I'm preaching to somebody that's addicted to busyness. I would really like to dig deeper and say, what are you so busy hiding? I'm so busy because I'm afraid to be alone with my own thoughts and my own person and my own, that's another day. Number 2 is how do I increase my capacity then? Number 2, our capacity increases when we recognize who we are in Jesus. See, when you begin to understand who you are, now you begin to understand what you should be doing. Well, let me say it this way. Identity is the doorway into our destiny. And if you don't know who you are, you'll be trying everything, and that'll stress you out. But when you begin to recognize, here's the gifts God's given me, here's the personalities given me, here's the calling and the opportunities, and when all of those begin to line up, now I'm laser focused on who Jesus has called me to be, not what everybody else, watch this, expects me to be. Woo, I'm going to high five myself on that one, huh? Are you hearing that today? Okay, and so, see, in my life, and the reason I can make fun of this is because I'm making fun of me. I was trying to get my approval from the people that I was pastoring. I wanted everybody to like me and everybody to love me, so I'd say yes to every group. And how do you think we ended up with 136 ministries? I just said yes to everything because I wanted you to like me. Come on now. And how many know, if you haven't figured this out, how many know, don't tell nobody, just between us. People are finicky. And they'll like you one moment. Oh, sorry, you're not ready for that. Number three is this. Our capacity increases when we know what we were created to do. First, we understand who we are. Now we can understand what we're created to do. You can't know what you are supposed to do until you know who you are in Christ. And I know I've said this a lot. Let me say it one more time. I say no to a lot of things. And it keeps me where God wants me. Watch this. 2 Peter 1. Check this out. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, make every effort. Watch this. Make every effort to confirm your calling. Make every effort to do the thing that God created you to do. I know you got a job that you work 40, 50, 60. I know that. But are you doing the thing that God's created you to do? Make every effort to confirm your calling. Let me tell you that your calling has a competitor. And life will try to make you so busy that you never understand what you're really created to be and do. All right, let me read on. For if you do these things, you will never stumble, and you will receive a rich welcome into the eternal kingdom of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. There's more on that, but just know this, your calling has a competitor, and the enemy, if he can't get you to sin, he wants you so busy that you can't see straight. Ecclesiastes 4:6, I love this verse, and it says, better one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing the wind. That's for somebody. Somebody in this house, you need to slow down because you don't need that next thing you're trying to buy with all the time you're giving up. Okay, I know. I just meddle. I just went from preaching to meddling. I apologize. Strike that from the record, but it's already out there. All right, here we go. Number 4. Number 4 is our capacity increases when we do life together. When we link up, and by the way, I'm so proud of this church, man. I'm so fired up about how many people are in life groups right now that we are doing life together. God made us to do life together. I'm out of time, so number 5, our capacity increases when God is number one in our lives. When He's number one. I mean, it's so simple, but it's so true. Order determines outcome. Let me say it this way. Just lean into this. This is the last one. I'm done. So listen to this. Most of our stress comes from ignoring God's principles. I'm stressed out about my money. Is God number one in your money? Man, this is not the day to have showed up here in a good mood. I'm just so stressed out about these relationships. Okay, are you doing relationships God? Come on, everybody. Are you doing what you want to do? Because that's just our culture now. And wondering why every relationship is stressful. But are you doing it? Are you following God's way for dating? Are you following God's way for marriage? Are you following God's way? Come on, everybody. I just thought I'd throw it out there. I thought I was loved enough to hear that. All right. How about, I never have enough time. Okay. Are you doing time God's way? Do you have a Sabbath? Is He the first of your day? Is He the first of your week? Is He first? And when God is number one in our life, then everything flows through number one, and then capacity increases. I can't say that without giving you this final verse. You already know it. Matthew 6, it says, but seek first, there it is, His kingdom. There's the law of first. Seek first His kingdom. Seek first His kingdom. Seek first in my relationships. Seek first Him in my money. Seek first in Him in my spirituality. There you go. All right? Seek first. Is He first? Am I honoring God? Am I dating? Am I honoring God in my sexuality? Am I honoring God with my finances? Am I honoring God with my money? I'm going to stop there. Aren't you happy now? Here's what I know. Peace comes when I put God first. Because now no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Amen. I got to stop right there. Will you receive that today? All right. Amen. Let's sneeze out the stress. Would you stand with me today?